Today we are going to be pouring concrete for my future kitchen and living room in my farmhouse. Hey everybody, you're watching Cole the Corn Star. Good morning everybody, welcome to the farm. So here's our plan for today. We are going to get heated floor lines laid down on this, then we are going to get rebar laid down, and then we're gonna pour concrete. But before we get started with any of that, we have this footing where we need to build a little bit more rebar structure inside of. This rebar structure is going to be supporting a load-bearing wall that's going to be carrying the second floor of the house. And that thing has been raising some blood pressures over the last 12 hours because yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we got a call from the engineers and they said that the beams that are sitting above that failed their load calculations. So they were overloaded and they were going to break. So fortunately, they figured out a new plan. So we are able to resume building and we're gonna get some concrete poured. All right, Roman, what are our steps?
Step 1, get it done. Step 2, get it poured.
Is it overkill? Probably, but does it make me feel better? Yeah. Now we have the fun part. We're gonna start laying down some heated floor lines. For the heated floor line, we are going to be using this PEX pipe. This stuff is 5/8 of an inch thick, and it's basically just a really strong plastic. On this reel, we have 1,000 feet of it, and you pretty much use 1 foot per square foot. So for our 1,700 square foot pour right here, we are going to need 1,700 feet of tubing. When we get all of this done, there is going to be a heated floor line every 12 inches across the entire floor, and we are going to be using this staple gun with these special plastic staples to staple our line down to our insulation so that way they don't move. After about 45 minutes, Roman and I just got done laying down zone number 1. It looks a little bit bare right now, and that's for good reason. Roman had a really good idea with the layout of this. So what we ended up doing is we went all the way down, tied it back a foot, and then we left a few feet in between because when we come back with zone 2, we're gonna do the exact same thing, but in this big open area. And then when we come back with zone 3, we're gonna do the same thing again. So that way, every basically 5 feet right now we have a zone 1, and then every 5 feet there's going to be a zone 2, and then every 5 feet there will be a zone 3. So that way all of our zones will be equally integrated throughout the entire floor. When it comes to laying heated floor lines down, there are a bunch of different ways you can do it, but in my mind there are basically 2 main ones, and those would be the integrated method, which is what we are doing, or what I'm calling what we are doing, and then the block method. So the block method would basically be taking the far back part, making that zone 1, and then taking the middle of our pour, making that zone 2, and then taking the part where I'm standing right here and making that zone 3. So the main reason why we wanted to do the integrated method, and I don't know if this is really necessary or not, but we're doing it, it would be so that way if let's say we have zone 1 all the way in the back, if we had a leak in that loop for whatever reason, then we would lose all heat to the back of the pad, where the middle and the part right behind me would still have heat. Where on the integrated method like this, since we have all of the lines together in the floor, if we lose a loop, we still have heat running through everything. We should have a heated floor line pretty much every 12 inches all the way through this entire thing. We did have a couple areas where we got a little wide, so we got a little creative going squiggly like this. And then over here, we actually ran about 100 feet short on our line. So this is going to be part pantry area, and then the back part is going to be a hallway that's going to have a ramp over the top of it. So we figured we didn't necessarily need as many lines in here, especially if we have a couple freezers inside of the pantry. So this actually just has 2 zones over here, and we went just a little bit wider with our spacing. Next up, we have about 150 pieces of rebar cut just like this. We are going to be inserting them into these little holes we have drilled inside of the wall. We are going to be installing dowels. The whole point of the dowels is to tie everything together. Since our foundation walls were poured separately from our floor, these are technically 2 completely separate pieces of concrete. So what our dowels do is the dowels go into the foundation wall, and then the dowels also go into the concrete, so that way we cannot get any sort of settlement between the two, because the pieces of rebar that we have on the inside will hold everything up. If we prepared the ground underneath properly, we should never have to worry about any settling, but while we have everything open, we're putting these in as a backup. Look at this. We are officially ready to start laying some rebar. And looking at my pile, unfortunately, I do not think that we have enough. I was just looking at our plans, and the big footing that we just dug where we have all the rebar is located right here, and I have a feeling that we have 2 point loads right there that also need footings under them. And unfortunately, there's heated floor lines in the way. Oh man, I'm not sure how I misread that. The only thing that's throwing me off about these 2 point loads is if we go to the schematic of the floor above, there is nothing right here indicating that weight is going to be transferred down. So we're hoping that they just accidentally forgot to delete those texts off of there, because if that's the case, we don't have to put in footings. If we don't have to put in footings, that's gonna save us a whole bunch of work. I reached out to the designer slash engineer, and when he gets back to us, we will know for sure. But in the meantime, Roman and I are going to start laying down the rebar on that side and working our way this way. You're gonna try to hit every hole, so it's gonna be like boom, 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 as fast as you can. There you go, there you go. We're about halfway through getting the rebar down. We still probably have about 20 sticks left. This is actually going a little bit further than I thought. We're definitely gonna run out somewhere right here, so we're gonna have to get more in a little bit. I did just hear back from the designers slash engineers, and they said there are not going to be any point loads right here. So this is good news. We do not have to do any more digging. So once we get this rebar done and get everything lifted up off the ground with our rebar chairs, we will be ready for concrete. And speaking of concrete, I need to put an order in, and I also need to get a pumper lined up. We just ran around with the tape measure. We took some measurements, so I'm gonna throw all these numbers into my concrete calculator, and then it's gonna tell us how many yards we will need. Are you guys busy, very busy tomorrow for like a 7 a.m. pour?
No, shoot, what do you need?
Well, we're looking at a 52-yarder. It sounds like we got a spot for 52 yards of concrete for tomorrow from the concrete plant, but now we need to get the pumper lined up, and we can't do the pour without the pumper, so this is equally as important. Would you have an availability tomorrow morning for a pumper, or could you get me one lined up?
What time are you thinking?
7 a.m. is what the concrete plant said we got time for.
Okay, yes, sir. Yep.
We have promise. Roman just got back from town. He grabbed another bundle of rebar. We have 150 sticks here. We're probably only going to need to use about 100 of them, but having extras is not a bad thing. And then while he was in town, he also picked up a second power trowel. We feel like we want to run 2 on this pad because we are going to be in full sunshine when we are finishing this thing, and it's going to start setting up on us quick. So we wanted to ensure that we'll be able to get everything finished with the power trowel. So we're gonna be running 2. Concrete is going to be here in about 14 hours, and we still have rebar we need to get laid down, tied, as well as on rebar chairs. So we have some work that we need to get to. It's 6:30 right now. We still need to tie the entire pad. We need to get the entire pad spaced out to 12 inches. We need to get the entire pad blocked up on the blocks for the spacing off the insulation. And we also need to get this door out. We still need to get the power screed together. We need to make sure everything's fueled up. All the fluids are good. We also need to do the exact same thing with the power trowel. So we have a lot to do, and we don't have a lot of time to do it. We worked until dark and we got a lot of stuff done. We basically got everything tied. We probably have 85% of our rebar chairs in place. We do need to walk along in the morning and just make sure we didn't miss any spots where some rebar chairs may need to be. And then we have a few odd and end things we need to take care of out on the pad. And then we need to get everything full of fuel, just check everything over, make sure it all starts, get everything put together and brought over here. So we're almost there, but we have a little bit done, but it's too dark to see out right now. So I'm gonna try to get here a couple hours before the concrete, so that way we can have everything 100% ready to go. So once the concrete gets here, we're not running around in a frenzy trying to tie the last few things up. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is concrete day. We got Ricardo pulling in right now. It's just after 6 o'clock in the morning. Justin should be here in a little bit. Roman should be here in a little bit. Cooper should be here in a little bit. My dad should be here in a little bit. In about 30 minutes, the concrete pumper should be coming in. He'll get set up. And then at 7 a.m., we should have the first concrete truck rolling in. I'm gonna have Ricardo start getting some tools ready. There's some things in that shed, there's some things in that shed. He needs to get some gas over there, and then he needs to get everything brought out here and organized. And we're gonna have him get this wall cleaned up and stuff, so that way we can work around here without knocking stuff in or tripping over all this stuff on the ground. And then I'm gonna take a few more of these concrete blocks, I'm gonna break them up, and I'm gonna throw them on the inside on some areas where we are maybe lacking a little bit of spacing between our radiant heated floor lines and the rebar. And then if I'm not mistaken, when Justin and Roman get here, they're going to take the existing door of the house off. Okyo dokyo, let's get to it. There we go, pumper truck is here. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got lost, so he's a little late. Concreto está aquí. So here's our plan of attack. We're gonna start by pouring the footing first. There's gonna be about 4 yards in this. And then we're gonna start over there and we'll end over here. These are some funny looking pants. Why'd they make them that color? That's weird. We just got done with the pour. It is already starting to set up on that end, so Roman's gonna get started here with the power trowel. We got 2 of them today, so we should be able to move pretty quickly. We're just having troubles with them right now. Roman got that one started, and then he shut it off, and now it won't start. That's the rented one. And then ours, we got started and shut it off, and now it also will not turn on. So hopefully we can get that figured out. Otherwise, this is going to be a really big pad to do by hand. There we go. Got Cooper running this one. Got Roman running that one over there. We're trying to get all of these imperfections out of the floor so that way we can make it nice and flat. And then right now, I'm running along the edges. I'm laying on top of that wall, and I have a hand trowel, and I'm smoothing out the edges while the concrete's still pretty green, and I can still move things around. So that way, hopefully, we can get a nice finish all the way up to the wall, all the way around this entire thing. Every time we pour concrete, we learn something new. One of the things that we've really been trying to improve upon after pouring the underground movie theater and the basement is smooth edges. So today, we are having a few more finishers on the crew. So we're running the 2 power trowels at the same time, so that way those guys can just focus on that. And then Zach and I are focusing on our edges, trying to make them nice and smooth. So Zach right now is just doing an edging technique with a magnesium float. The concrete is still soft. If I stepped in this, I would definitely leave a footprint. But he is just trying to get all of the low spots filled in, all of the high spots graded off. So that way, it's just a nice, even plane. So that way, when they come in with the power trowels, then they can go right up to the edge and then get it smooth all the way up to the wall. We poured really early this morning because it's supposed to get up to about 88 degrees, and when it gets that warm, concrete starts to dry out really fast. So now that we got this thing all finished, I'm going to throw some water on it. We're going to keep throwing water on it while we get stuff cleaned up. And then once we get everything cleaned up, then we are going to take some big plastic tarps. We're going to water this, and then we're going to throw the big plastic tarps over the top. So that way we can trap as much moisture as possible inside of this concrete. So that way it can cure as slowly as possible. We're going to start throwing some more water on this here in a minute once we get our tarps out. And then we are going to tarp this. But before we do that, let's take a look at our concrete. First off, I want to show the part that I did because I put some serious work into this edge to make it look pretty. Look how good that looks, right to the edge. Now this isn't the cleanest, but it really doesn't matter. There's going to be a wall right here, so that is going to be hidden. But all the way down, it's nice and even, no rough areas. That looks really good. I have never finished anything this well before, so this is definitely the best work I've ever done. As for the rest of the edges, these were significantly better than anything else we have ever done, but we still did have a little bit of roughness, and that's because we simply were a little high right here relative to our grade point. But the good news with this is we're gonna have a board about right where my hand is, so everything to the right of my hand will be exposed to the room, and that's all smooth, and everything to the left will be hidden behind the wall. So this really doesn't matter. I really just wanted to practice this, even if it's gonna be hidden behind the wall, just so on future pours, if we actually have to look at it, then we will know how to do it where it actually looks good. But we also did have a lot of areas like this where it is actually relatively smooth all the way up to the side. So this is a major improvement over our first pour and our second pour. So we're getting better. As far as finish goes, the flatness is awesome. Roman and Cooper were running the power trowels on that whole process. They did a really good job. We do have just a little bit of spiraling right here, but I think once the concrete cures, you're not even gonna be able to see that anymore, because when I run my hand over it, I can't feel anything. That is nice and smooth. As for texture, we don't want it to be too rough. We don't want it to be too smooth. Roman just watered this down, and it's basically, you still got grip, but it's nice and smooth, where if we come in with a broom or something, we'll be able to clean things up nice and easy. And it pretty much makes a perfect floor for doing this. It may look a little homemade, mostly because we used plywood to cover the concrete, but this is going to work for us. We are just trying to trap some water on the top of the concrete so that way it doesn't dry out as fast, and then hopefully this will help make our concrete stronger. The tarp over on this side has a bunch of holes in it, so it's not really doing its job. You can already see how much it's dried just sitting here. So Justin actually just ran into town to go get a new tarp, so he's gonna go grab that, and then he's gonna throw that over this existing tarp as well as the part that's not tarped on the end. And in the meantime, I have 30 minutes to get the power trowel cleaned up before I need to bring it back to the rental store. So I'm gonna try to get this thing clean. We did spray this with the foam release oil before we used it, so I'm hoping we just hit this with water and everything should fall off. Ideal. I need to clean the other power trowel yet, and it's starting to rain. Bienvenidos a la tienda de alquilar. I want to apologize to the rental store guys right now because I'm rolling in at 4:55 and they close at 5, and it's a Friday. Sorry. While I was gone, it looks like we got a pretty nice little shot of rain. Holy cow, that was super cool. Anyway, the wind must have picked up a little bit. It blew our tarps off, so I need to go find a bunch more boards to be able to secure this thing down. This rain is actually really good for this concrete right now because not only is it wet, it's also cooled the air temperature down a lot. So it's helping slow the curing process of the concrete. So this is actually pretty welcome. Justin did also run into town. We have a friend that bought an old hardware store and he said he had a bunch of concrete tarps there. I guess I should have anticipated concrete blankets. These are for pouring when it's cold, but they'll still do the same job nonetheless. They're just quite a bit smaller than a big plastic sheet that would cover all of this. It looks like the rain's kind of dying down a little bit, so I'm gonna try to clean up this other power trowel, and then I'm gonna get a whole bunch of blocks of wood to throw on that. And then also, I accidentally ordered way too much concrete, so instead of just putting it in a pile, we decided to spread it out right here along where we're working in the muddy area. So now, we don't have to work in the mud anymore. I think that wraps up the day. This is all we got for today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.